Altered dominants and tritone subs. The very words can strike fear into the hearts of beginning jazz guitarists. Flat 9, sharp 11. It sounds pretty mysterious and complicated. But if you want to sound like a pro, you need to learn how to handle them. Dr. George here, helping you play better jazz guitar now. Making complex topics simpler is our goal. In this video, we'll unravel the mysteries of altered dominants and tritone subs. First, we'll dig into a little of the theory so we understand what they are, and next, we'll see how they work over a jazz essential, rhythm changes. Then, we'll look at how to handle them when reading big band charts. And finally, I'll show you 2 easy patterns you can use to solo over them. Let's get started. Dominant 7th chords are the most versatile chords we use, and they offer the most opportunity for color. Changing the tensions can mean the difference between a bright and happy sound or a cold and dark sound. Altered dominants are dominant 7th chords that include at least one of the following: flat 9, sharp 9, flat 5, sharp 11, or sharp 5, flat 13. When voicing these, it's either or, but with scales, both can be present. You can have altered 9s with natural 5s, or vice versa. As long as one note is altered, it's an altered dominant. Most altered dominants will be secondary dominants. A good rule of thumb is to use the tensions from the current key. At Berkeley, they taught us different altered scales: the Lydian flat 7, Mixolydian flat 13, altered natural 5, and the altered dominant scale. But we can make it simpler than that. With most secondary dominants, the one note the difference from the current key is the third of the chord. Let's look at a common example. The 5-7 of 2 in B flat is G7, G, B, D, F. Now the B flat scale is B flat, C, D, E flat, F, G, A. Now if we combine those, we get G, A, B flat, B, C, D, E flat, F. It's basically an 8-note bebop scale. This has a natural 9 or sharp 9 plus the flat 13. Now you can treat the sharp 9 as flat 3, a blue note. So the implied chord is G9 flat 13 or G7 sharp 9 flat 13. But the only note outside of the B flat scale is B natural. Let's look at one more. The 5-7 of 5 in F is also G7, G, B, D, F. The key of F has F, G, A, B flat, C, D, E, F. So when we combine that, we get G, A, B flat, B, C, D, E, F. So it's either G7 or G7 sharp 9. So here are the scales for each of the secondary dominants. Now the 5-7 of 4 is generally not altered. But for the others, in each case, there's one additional note added to the scales they taught me at Berkeley. Now let's talk about tritone subs. Let's do a quick theory lesson. The 3rd and 7th of a dominant chord is a tritone. Now a tritone is 6 half steps, and it splits an octave exactly in half. So if you go up from the note in the middle, it's a tritone. If you go down to the same note, it's also a tritone. So every tritone can be the 3rd and 7th of a dominant 7th chord, or you can turn it upside down and make it the 7th and 3rd of another dominant 7th chord. And those dominant 7th chords have roots that are a tritone apart. And if you change the 5th of each of those chords to a flat 5, they end up being inversions of exactly the same chord. Now, there's a lot more we can talk about on tritone subs, and if you have questions, post them in the comments down below. So now let's talk about the practical uses of the tritone sub. Essentially what they do is they create chromatic progressions. We use them in 2 ways. One, as an approach chord. Or as a substitute. Now, we're mainly concerned with them as substitutes here. So the 2-5-1 becomes 2, flat 2, 7, 1. But the 3rds and 7ths are the same notes for both progressions. And we can go a step beyond that. You can use tritone subs for non-dominant chords. For example, in a 1-6-2-5 progression, you can substitute 1, flat 3, 2, 5. And we can go even further. You can substitute chords of the same quality. So here we have a 1-6-2-5 in F and another 1-6-2-5 in the key of B major. Those are a tritone apart. Now from the F major 7 chord, we could go to the D minor 7, but we could also go to the G sharp minor 7. And then from there, we could either go back to the key of F or stay in the key of B. And we can continue this process for the whole progression. And of course, this is going to work if we start on the key of B. And so there are a lot of different options. And you could also change the minor 7th chords to dominant 7th chords, giving us even more possibilities. Now you might wonder why I'm grouping altered dominants and tritone subs in the same video. Well, technically, the 5-7 chord should be using the notes of the current key, which is essentially the Mixolydian mode. But it's common in modern jazz to alter that dominant 7th chord. You want to sound cool, you alter it. Now you have to be careful with the melody, so you might want to save it for solos, though. So here's the thing. The altered dominant scale is the 7th mode of the melodic minor scale. For tritone subs, we use the Lydian dominant scale. That's the 4th mode of the same melodic minor scale. So when you play an altered dominant on 5-7, it's actually a tritone sub. And it's the bass player who determines which chord is being played. It doesn't really matter. It sounds cool either way. So let's put it into practice. We'll look at rhythm changes. In the A section, it starts out with 1-6-2-5, but nobody plays that anymore. It's a lot more common to replace them with dominant 7th chords. And then for the last 4 bars, we can continue, and we end up using nothing but dominant 7th chords. So the B section is all secondary dominants. So we'll be adding the 3rd of the chord to the main key B flat. So with a D7 chord, it'll be a B flat major scale with an F sharp added. For the G7 chord, it's a 5-7-2. We'll be adding the B natural. And for the C7 chord, the 5-7-5, we'll be adding the E natural. And then for F7, we should be playing Mixolydian, but again, if we want a more modern sound, we'll probably play the altered scale, which would be F sharp melodic minor. Let's look at the one place you're likely to find a lot of complex altered dominant chords, big band charts. Big band charts are notorious for chord symbols like this. But here's the thing, many arrangers don't know how to write for guitar. So a chord like G augmented 7, flat 9, sharp 9 tells you what's being played in the horn section, but it's not telling you what to play, it's telling you what not to play. That chord symbol tells you, don't play a natural 9 or a natural 5. So your best solution in big band is to start with the 3rd and the 7th, and then add one of the notes that's indicated in the symbol. So now let's see if we can make this just a little simpler. As guitar players, because we're not playing roots, we can take advantage of the ambiguity of the dominant 7ths. The 3rds and 7ths are the same for the dominant 7th and the tritone sub. And whether we are playing altered or natural tensions will depend solely on what the bass player chooses to play. When playing chords, think either natural or altered. Don't worry whether it's 9 sharp 5 or 13 flat 9 or flat 9 flat 13. If you choose natural and the bass player plays this tritone sub, then you're playing altered, and vice versa. Now eventually you'll hear that nuance, but for now, keep it simple. The bottom line, though, is that it's really going to be up to you. Now also, when you're reading chord symbols, unless there's something that specifically contradicts it, if you see a chord symbol that says flat 9, it means flat 9 or sharp 9, but not natural 9. And the same thing's true if you have a sharp 9 chord. Flat 5 could mean flat 5 or sharp 5, but not natural 5. Now, sharp 11 or flat 13 mean that the natural 5 is possible, so you have to be a little careful there. So now I'm going to show you 2 patterns that'll work on dominant 7ths as natural chords or altered chords, depending on where you put the root. For our first pattern, we'll put the root here. And what we have is a flat 7, the root, the 3rd, and the 5th. So there's a nice arpeggio. But then we have the 13th, another root, and the 9th. But when we put the root here, the tritone sub, it now becomes 3, flat 5, flat 7, flat 9, sharp 9, flat 5, and flat 13. Now for the second pattern, here's our root, and here's the pattern. And again, if we're playing, putting the root there, we have a flat 7, a root, a 9, the 3rd, the 5th, the 13th, and another flat 7th. But when we go to the tritone sub, now we have 3, flat 5, flat 13, flat 7, flat 9, sharp 9, 3. So with these two patterns, you can cover natural or altered tensions with your root 5 and root 6 dominant 7th chords pretty easily. Now you probably noticed that I've been using a lot of no root voicings when I'm dealing with altered chords. And if you need some help with those, why don't you check out this video.